evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday, November 18th, 2025 regular board meeting, West Seneca Central School District. If I can have everyone rise to the pledge, I'd like to call up the West Middle students to lead us. And we have a microphone set up right over here for you guys in front of the TV, behind Mr. Zach.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Move on to our roll call. Marla?
Present.
Lorraine?
Present.
Ryan?
Kale.
What was that?
Kale.
That's what I'm looking at. You're over there. Cal?
Present.
Oh, I thought he was missing. Excellent. Charlotte?
Present.
Adam?
Present.
Laura?
Present.
Sarah?
Present.
Jeremy?
Present.
Zach?
Here, Ed.
Excellent. And I'm here, and of course, Dr. Krueger. Move on to our school spotlight, West Middle. If we want to have you guys come up. Actually, oh, you made it up already. That was quick.
They're trying to speed you along. Ed.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Kendall Kolinsky, and these are my friends Josh Madison and Carter Rick. At West Middle, we live by the motto, be good, do good, go West. Let us show you this motto in action.
In September, we held our annual West Fest. Hundreds of students and their families attended and enjoyed activities such as gaga ball, mini golf, making a beret, and hitting a piñata.
One of the biggest reasons West Middle is the best because of our principals. Ms. Smart decided to surprise our principals with an appreciation wall filled with our students' gratitude for Mr. Keene and Mrs. Bongiovanni. We really appreciate all the great programs and activities our principals support at West Middle. We also want to acknowledge our elementary principals as well. Thank you, Dr. Frawley, Dr. Quinn, and Mrs. Brady.
This is a wall that the students at West Middle, they made in study halls or English classes. It's just a bunch of cards saying one thing that we appreciate about our principals, Miss Bongiovanni and Mr. Keene. So that board highlights how thankful we are that about what our principals do for us and how they help us.
One of the funnest things that West Middle has to offer is our grade level dances. The 6th graders at West Middle just had their first dance. It consisted of costumes, games, and limbo. These dances offer West Middle students an opportunity to have some extra fun and to get to know their peers better.
This year, Mr. Keene implemented the Weston Games, where each grade level strives to have the most points for 5 weeks at a time. 7th grade won the first competition, was awarded Italian ice, and an opportunity to go to Highmark Stadium to meet the Bills rookies. Several Buffalo Bills rookies interacted with the students, and yes, Deion Walker is really tall.
While we are talking about turf, West Middle once again held turf nights for each grade level. Students and staff look forward to the annual tug of war games and a 100-yard dash. The students also look forward to the challenge of beating Mr. Keene in the 100-yard dash, which really wasn't a challenge at all.
The SPCA's Pause for Love program brings a lot of joy and comfort to our building. Yogi is a 135-pound Newfoundland therapy dog. Students and staff enjoy taking a brain break while meeting Yogi. West Middle is super excited to have Pause for Love visit West Middle this year.
Fun Fridays are also another hit at West Middle. One Friday every month, students have the opportunity to participate in a variety of sports and games. One of our Fun Fridays, we played basketball. And if you got lucky, you might have seen Mr. Kane doing a layup or two.
We all thank the school board for giving us the opportunity to tell you why West Middle is best. Be good, do good, go West.
Excellent job. Thank you so much, West.
Thank you for that. We'll move on to our student ex officio board member report. Cal's not here, so go ahead, Cal. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go in chronological order since it's been a while since I gave my last report. So a couple weeks ago, West beat East at football. Was not a clean game at all, but they did come out with a win. Then more recently, we had our Veterans Day ceremony last Monday, which we welcomed many veterans and had 3 give remarks. And then last Friday, our boys volleyball team won the section and now are playing in states this weekend. And tomorrow is the last day for students to donate to the Thanksgiving food drive, which Key Club ran. Charlotte?
Okay, so our sports teams had a lot of games last week, and they're finishing up their season. So the East had their championship, their sectional championship football game last Friday. Fortunately, they lost 44-22. Cross country also went to states. They took Max Newlove and Austin Maluski to participate there. Boys volleyball had their semifinals last week. The score was 25-11. Unfortunately, they were the 11. Then girls volleyball also had their playoffs last week. They had their first home playoff in a decade, so I say that's a win for them. And then this week and last week is the start of sports tryouts. We have 2 new clubs at East, consisting of the First Responders Club and the African American Studies Club. Our music department had a lot going on as they just finished their play called Too Many Detectives in the Murder Mansion. That was on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday last week. And musical auditions are already starting. The musical this year is SpongeBob the Musical. As well as a couple weeks ago, many students across the district participated in Buff State's Honors Band, where they had a conductor from Yale University conduct and teach and rehearse with all the students. Key Club has been having a food drive the past couple weeks. They'll end, like Cal said, this Thursday. And a couple weeks ago, Student Council had their craft show. It was a success, raising thousands of dollars for our school. And they already have 85 crafters signed up for their spring craft show.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. I'll hand it over to Dr. Krueger.
Thank you. I'm happy to share with you my superintendent's report. I wanted to start by making the board and the community aware of a step that we had to take at Winchester Potters Elementary School to ensure our student safety. We will be undergoing an emergency demolition of the playground on the campus of Winpot due to unsafe conditions of that playground. As you can see here photographed, there's actually a section where we've got an orange cone and caution tape where a section of railing has been missing from the playground. Due to the age of the playground, we cannot get replacement parts for it. I have a few other pictures that highlight the rust and the deterioration on the playground at the campus of Winpot. This particular picture of the deck, students would be running across the deck of the playground above or playing underneath it. I've summed this up to my colleagues as that's a tetanus shot at best, and it's a significant injury at worst, having that exposed, sharp, and rusted metal. So we are taking the step right now to do an emergency demolition of that playground. There are some other pieces of equipment on the campus at Winchester Potters. There's a bank of swings, and there's 2 smaller pieces of playground equipment that have been purchased generously with the support of the parent-teacher organization over the years. But just to recap and I guess tell you where we've been and where we're headed in the future, the replacement of playgrounds was something that we did put out to voters in December of 23. That was part of a 3-phase proposition to voters, and unfortunately the playgrounds were not supported by the voters at that time. We will be going back out this May for our next capital improvement project, and we are prioritizing the schools and the playgrounds that are in greatest need of replacement, Winchester Potters being at the top of the list. So we are doing this as a temporary step in hopes of having a greater long-term solution with the support of our community. We will be buying a piece of playground equipment using funds out of our general funds. We've allocated about $25,000 to $30,000 that we anticipate buying one piece of playground equipment now that we can then add on to through the support of a capital improvement project. But it's important to note that that emergency piece that we're going to buy now for about $25,000 to $30,000 is coming out of our general fund, and we will get no state aid reimbursement back on it. So the best way to purchase playground equipment, the most cost-effective way for the district and for our residents, is to do so through a capital improvement project where we get state aid back. So we will be again asking for our community support this spring for the needed playground replacements that we have. I would like to transition now to something much more positive and recognize our colleague, Robin Brady, who was recently honored as a distinguished alumni of Mount Mercy Academy. So congratulations to Robin. Myself and several of our colleagues had the honor to see Robin be recognized at a dinner that was hosted recently. So congratulations to Robin on that great honor. I'd also like to recognize our board members, and specifically our ex officio student board members. This is the first year that we've had ex officio student board members serving on our Board of Education, and they have completely and utterly impressed me in every way. They go above and beyond. They are busy students who are active and involved in things outside of the classroom, yet they make the time to be here for our board meetings, and they also participate in learning sessions that are hosted by the Erie County School Boards Association. So I just have some recognition there of participation that both Charlotte and Ryan had at recent Erie County School Boards Association sessions. So many thanks to them for their continued leadership and their involvement on the board. I'd also like to recognize the efforts of our school counselors who hosted a career exploration and partnered with Erie One BOCES to do so. This was hosted most recently for some of our elementary schools. We have another on the horizon this spring so that all 5 of our elementary schools will get this career exploration experience where they got to learn from students who are currently juniors and seniors at our high school participating in various career programs through Erie One BOCES. So our students got to hear from students who are in programs such as building trades and early childhood, culinary arts, cosmetology, and just learn about what their career aspirations are and learn a little bit about the learning that they're doing through BOCES. We also hosted our annual E&L dinner. This is an annual event where we celebrate the diversity in our school community and invite our English language learning families to this dinner where we can celebrate their culture. And it's a great community building experience. So I would like to recognize all of the faculty and staff that were involved in hosting that event. We really honor our schools and the time that we have together to make unique and fun memories for our students. Beyond academics and beyond learning, school is a special place where students make memories with their peers on a daily basis. And I'd like to thank our transportation department who hosted a spooky school bus for our students to enjoy at some of our trunk or treat events that we had in late October. Also, our Academies program held their annual Mad City Money event, and this is with community-based organizations and business partners where students got to experience real-life world finances. They were given a career, a budget, and had to interact with various individuals to try to work out their household finances and make some decisions along the way as to whether they would rent a house or purchase a house or buy a vehicle or lease a vehicle. And throughout the morning as they were engaging in this, they had to maintain their household budget. It's a really hands-on way for students to learn about personal finance. So many thanks to the entire team who hosted that event. I'd like to highlight the work that we are doing and continuing to do in our cafeterias. We invested this summer in replacing a number of pieces of our equipment within the kitchens, but we've also done some things to renovate the way in which our cafeterias and serving lines look. These are pictures at West Middle School where we have done some vinyl wrapping on the serving lines, which just makes it a much more attractive and bright space for our students to enjoy on a daily basis. And we're continuing to do that and hope to expand that into other schools. I'd like to recognize also West Senior that recently hosted their production of Little Shop of Horrors. Congratulations to the cast and crew and everyone that was involved in that successful show. I'd like to transition now and highlight some amazing things from our fall sports season. Charlotte did a great job of summarizing the success of some of our sports teams, but we also have some sports teams who did some amazing fundraisers, such as our volleyball teams who hosted Dig for a Cure, which is a volleyball tournament, and they raised thousands of dollars for the American Cancer Society. Our cross-country team had phenomenal success this year with both an individual female student who made it to states, Bella Rose, and also an entire team of cross-country students who made it to states. Our football teams had great success. As Charlotte mentioned, we had the ability to go to Highmark Stadium on Friday night to cheer on East Senior. They have the distinct honor of being one of the last varsity football teams to play at our NFL stadium. We just learned recently that in the new stadium, they will not be hosting high school playoff games. So this is really a distinct honor that our students had to be able to play on the field at Highmark Stadium and to have that honor in an NFL stadium. So the outcome wasn't what we had hoped for, but what a great opportunity for our students to celebrate their hard work all season. So congratulations to East Senior. East and West boys volleyball teams had a phenomenal year, and West Senior's volleyball team is still going. As Cal mentioned, they will be in the Finger Lakes region this weekend for Far West Regionals, so congratulations to them and good luck this weekend. We're getting into a very busy time of year where we start a lot of our holiday concerts. I've highlighted some upcoming events for you here, but it is truly a wonderful time to see and have our students be showcased for the amazing work that our music department does. So please do check out our website where all of our concerts and upcoming events are listed. I've just captured some of them here for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, if you want to dive right back in, we'll do number 2, our redistricting reconfiguration presentation, please.
Thank you. So I am happy to share with you the latest developments that we have in our redistricting and reconfiguration plan. And this is on the heels of about 3 years worth of work. I want to give recognition to our redistricting committee and the work that they did, which led to a recommendation in June. And to recap that recommendation in June, at that time, the board asked us to go back and explore a few other options. And we did that work this summer. That led to us giving an update to the Board of Education on October 7th. On October 7th, we presented the redistricting and long-range facilities plan at the October 7th board meeting. And following that presentation, starting on October 8th through October 31st, we engaged in a public comment period where the public could give feedback regarding the details of that plan. And I'm going to share an overview of the feedback that we received. We had really high engagement. In this day and age, we get a number of surveys, and certainly through redistricting, this was our 5th survey that we sent out to families asking for feedback. And we had 958 participants that engaged in that thought exchange. So I'd like to summarize some of the feedback that we received and then present to you revised recommendations that are based on that feedback. So just to recap, this is what our community and residents were giving feedback on. On October 7th, we had made a recommendation for a long-range plan for not only solving our building capacity issues, but also a long-range plan that really looked at how we want to use our facilities in the best way for the long term and for our future. So we could have just looked at this in a more simplistic way of redistricting, which would be moving students from one school to another school. And that may have solved the issues of capacity in overcrowding that we have at some of our schools. But we wanted to do this in a much more thorough and complex and comprehensive way. And to do so, we wanted to look at what is our future plans for the use of the Ebenezer building, where some of our district offices are located, yet we get no state aid back on any of the work that needs to be done at the Ebenezer building. And that building does need substantial work to be done if we are going to maintain that building and keep that building either used by students or used by our employees. In addition, we have the Winchester Academy that's been leased by BOCES. BOCES intends to vacate much of their programming by the fall of 27 when they move into their new facility. So we need a long-range plan for the future of the Winchester Academy. We also have needs in our transportation department with a landlocked transportation facility that is really keeping us hamstrung on our desire to expand our fleet of buses. We currently have 28 buses that are contracted by a bus contracting service. And if we wanted to expand our fleet of buses, we're going to need a bigger footprint to do so. And then lastly, there's been discussion around the use of our high schools and whether or not we should have our academy model the way the academy model is, or should we look at using our high schools in a different way, given consideration to things like specialized schools or magnet schools. So in order for us to do this right and to do this well, we believed that it was much more important for us to look at this not just as redistricting and solving elementary or middle school capacity issues, but really looking at a comprehensive way for how do we best want to use our buildings long term and for the future. So we presented that on October 7th, and as I mentioned, we then engaged in a public comment period where the public could give feedback. I'd like to summarize that feedback for you now. As I said, we had 958 participants who responded to the survey. The vast majority of the respondents were parents or family members of our students. Second was our faculty and staff members here in the school. And then community members or students who gave feedback. We asked participants in that survey what their building affiliation is, what schools do they have a child or children attending, and this is the breakdown of the representation of those that completed the survey. The next question asked, have you viewed the long-range redistricting and facilities presentation, which was the October 7th meeting? I appreciate the honesty, but we had 14% of people who gave us their opinion despite having seen the most recent and revised plan on October 7th. And some of the comments were indicative of that. There were comments and feedback made regarding plans that had been eliminated from consideration going back to June. So I know this is a lot of information and maybe parents weren't keeping up on it every step of the way, but nonetheless, we had 86% of the participants did make an educated opinion before weighing in on this. They did either watch the board meeting live or watch a recording of it so that they could share their opinion as to what we were presenting. The stakeholder feedback, I would really like to, I think, just pause and commend our board for the time that they spent in allowing us to go back and revisit some of these plans, because the feedback from our community is really overall quite positive. When you talk about something that's a controversial topic like redistricting, to have more than half of your participants in a survey think that you're going about this the right way is pretty telling. And so this particular question asked, do you believe that the district has developed a plan that will solve capacity issues at Clinton and Allendale? And of the respondents, 61% agreed or strongly agreed, with an additional 20% kind of feeling neutral, with only 16% either disagreeing or strongly disagreeing. And again, when you're talking about a controversial topic like redistricting, to have the vast majority of the feedback be positive is pretty overwhelming. Additionally, this question, I believe the district has been responsive to feedback shared by stakeholders. Again, the vast majority believing that we have been responsive. And I think if you've been following this along the way, you will see that the plan that was presented in June versus what was presented on October 7th versus the update that I'm going to give tonight shows that there has been refinement and tweaks along the way based on the feedback that we're getting from stakeholders. The next question, I believe the district has created a long-range plan for future use of school buildings and facilities. Here, 59% positively weighing in with their feedback. This next summary took all of the comments from our participants, and it was the ability to analyze those comments as to, are there emerging themes through the comments, things that were trends in what people were sharing as feedback. And on one side of the issue, some of the feedback is that there is a belief that elementary base redistricting would solve the capacity issues. But on the other side of the issue was a loud and strong voice of participants who said, yes, we believe it would solve the capacity issues. However, the preference would be to go directly to that long-range plan, not to start with elementary base redistricting and then move to the pre-K to 2, 3 to 5 model, but rather advocacy to move directly to that greater long-range plan of the pre-K to 2, 3 to 5 model. And what both sides can agree on is the need for a long-term solution. That we have in the past been riddled with what's been perceived to be short-term solutions and short-term fixes. And what both sides can agree upon is that there is a desire to have a long-term plan that makes sense for our district. Some other themes that emerged were themes around the timing of this. I'll underscore again that there is definitely a desire for us to make a decision and to take action, that this has been studied for about 3 years now, and that now is the time to do something decisive and to take action. There's also some feedback that we received regarding the timing as it relates, I would say, to students having multiple moves throughout their elementary experience. In one of the models, which would be elementary-based redistricting, then going to our long-term plan, there may be some students who would be in one school, say for kindergarten and first grade, potentially go to a different school for second grade, and then go to a school for grades 3 through 5. And there was concern that was expressed on that, the number of moves that a child may need to make during their elementary years. And that was really underscored by a theme of student stability, that if we can solve this with making the fewest student moves possible, that was preferred. And also keeping students together with their peers, rather than peeling out a small group of students to go from school A to school B. If there's a way to keep large cohorts of students together, such as a reconfiguring model, was preferred so that students would have that stability to move with their peers and stay with their peer groups. And then lastly, some emerging themes were simply general support, there was a lot of positive comments that people appreciated that from June, we went back to the drawing board this summer. We came out on October 7th and then further sought feedback. People appreciated that it wasn't just a few people in a room making a decision, but that there's been transparency throughout the process and that we've sought feedback and have really listened to that feedback to influence our final recommendations. There's also an overwhelming sense that there was positive sentiments that people do trust the district's decision-making process and a willingness to proceed with a recommended plan. So based on that feedback, the Board of Education and I had a work session on October 21st. While the feedback was not yet closed, we were able to get a sense of some of the preliminary feedback, and then I'm sharing with you the final feedback after the public comment period closed on October 31st. So with that, we have some revised recommendations that I'll be presenting to the Board of Education and for us to consider as our long-term plan to move forward together. So to recap, this is what was presented on October 7th, which was referred to as Phase 1 Elementary Base Redistricting, which moved some students from Clinton Elementary to Northwood and some students from Allendale to Winchester Potters or West Elementary, with then the long-term plan of reconfiguring our elementary schools with pre-K to 2, 3 to 5 designations based on the schools. What I'll also note here that I failed to mention earlier is that the solution for West Middle School would be to fill in the pool and utilize that new space as instructional space where we anticipate 3 to 4 classrooms of additional classrooms, which would tremendously have a positive impact on the capacity issues at West Middle School. So this is what was presented on October 7th. Based on the feedback, we have revised the plan. Some of the elements, certainly will be the same, you'll see, but we are eliminating that step of elementary base redistricting based on the feedback that we received and based on the fact that we concur that it would implement another transition and another change for our students. So foregoing the elementary base redistricting step and going directly to elementary reconfiguration. The recommendation is that we do elementary reconfiguration this fall, September of 26, at Clinton Elementary and Northwood Elementary. At those two schools first. Clinton is our greatest concern and one of the greatest needs for us to explore either redistricting or reconfiguration. The class sizes at Clinton are not class sizes that are acceptable by our standards. And this would allow us to tackle those two schools first for the fall of 26. So come September, Clinton Elementary would be a pre-K to 2 elementary school, and Northwood would be a grade 3 through 5 elementary school. We would be able to focus all of our efforts on doing it well and supporting the students and families in those two schools for the fall of 26. Then in the fall of 27, we would do this same model, but now we would be addressing the West Side schools. So reconfiguring our elementary schools where Allendale and Winchester Potters would now become pre-K to 2 elementary schools, and this building, West Elementary, would become a grade 3 through 5 building. This building, to remind folks, or if they weren't aware, this building was actually designed to be a junior high. It was never designed to hold pre-kindergarten or kindergarten classrooms. And so we deal with challenges of trying to have little students in this building. There are no bathrooms in the classrooms here, as an example, as what you would commonly see in a kindergarten classroom. So having this building be an intermediate school is really smartly using this building for the manner in which it was designed. And then phase 3 and our long-range plan would really look at utilizing our buildings in the greatest extent possible to meet the needs of our community. Winchester Academy, we would be reutilizing that as a school building, with BOCES vacating that building. BOCES does anticipate still needing to lease about 6 to 10 classrooms with us, so that would allow us to maintain students in that building, making it eligible for state aid on any capital improvement projects that we do. But this would also allow us to concentrate our family supports. Right now, our family supports are not concentrated. We have central registration on the campus of East Middle School. We have our clothing closet at the Ebenezer building, and we do not have a family support center. Our vision is to have all of these family support services in one location at the Winchester Academy, which would house a family support center, our clothing closet, central registration, and we have a vision of a Boys and Girls Club at the Winchester Academy. So this would really be a community hub to serve our children and to serve our families. East Elementary would host our central offices. Right now, our central offices are not centralized. Our district offices are actually in 3 different locations. Special education is located in this building. Some of our central offices are located in the Ebenezer building, and some of our central offices are on the campus of East Middle School. By having us take over that space that was the former East Elementary School, it will allow us to centralize all of our district offices into one location and ultimately vacate the Ebenezer building so that we can sell that building. That will alleviate a burden to our taxpayers. We will have one fewer building to maintain, whether it's the electricity or snow plowing, one fewer buildings to maintain, and it is a building that we get no state aid back on, and it is in need of repairs. So all of our central offices would go to the East Middle School campus in the former East Elementary School. And then to solve the capacity issues at West Middle School and to also bring about some enhancements to our educational program, we have a vision to fill in the pools at both West Middle School and East Middle School, and to repurpose that space to have innovative STEM classrooms or STEAM classrooms. That would allow us to relocate the current technology or art rooms to that new space that's being filled in where the pools currently are, and allow us to repurpose those spaces to garner some additional instructional space. With the Board of Education, I've filled them in on kind of the status of swim in schools. Most middle schoolers do whatever they can to avoid swim and phys ed class. We underutilize our pools during the day, and they are a tremendous expense to a school district. The ongoing maintenance of a pool, from heating, filtering, chlorine, and chemicals, to the personnel expense. Whenever you have children in a pool, you need multiple adults that are CPR certified to have eyes on the pool. We are not utilizing our pools during the school day to make it justifiable to invest about $3+ million in each of those pools just to keep them open and functioning. We would maintain our pools at the high school level, and in talking with our community education director, having 2 high school pools will not only meet our needs for our athletic program, but it will also meet the needs that we have of our community education program. We do have learn to swim programs and things of that nature that are enjoyed by our community, and we don't want to discontinue that. We will be able to support those programs by consolidating and going down to 2 pools, one at each of our high schools. That, of course, will be dependent on voter support of that plan. In order for us to repurpose our pools and have them be additional instructional space, we will be putting that out to voters this spring in a capital improvement project in May. And so if this plan is a plan that the community supports as a long-term plan for our school district, I hope that the community will come out and show their support of that plan. This is our vision, not only to solve the elementary redistricting and capacity issues that we have at Allendale, at Clinton, and at West Mill, but really is a comprehensive plan that looks at the use of our facilities on a long-term basis. So with that, just want to summarize some of the benefits of this revised plan. It is first and foremost responsive to stakeholder feedback. If nothing else, I hope the community sees with full transparency that our minds were not made up on this back in May. We have worked, reworked, and reworked again this plan based on the feedback that we got to really try to develop a plan that is something that we believe is reflective of the values of this community. It keeps students with their peers and classmates rather than a neighborhood being dislocated to a different location. It keeps peers together. Students will be together kindergarten through 5th grade, and they will transition from that primary school, the pre-K to 2 building, to the 3 to 5 building together, only to go on to middle school together. So we will really have students cohorted in a large group of peers from kindergarten all the way through high school. It avoids children attending, potentially multiple different elementary schools and having those transitions in the elementary years. This plan and the rollout of the plan, with phase 1 being Northwood and Clinton in the fall of 26, and then our West Side elementary schools in the fall of 27, really allows us to focus our support to do it well and do it right at only 2 to 3 schools at a time. It'll allow us to really focus on transitional supports for our students and our faculty and staff. And there's a lot of logistical things that we will need to work through. It allows us the time and the resources to be able to make the furniture and equipment moves, to be able to have Clinton be a primary school and Northwood to be an intermediate school. The furniture and equipment we have in a kindergarten classroom, think little tables, little chairs, is a lot different than the furniture and equipment that we have in a 5th grade classroom. So this summer, we are going to have a lot of those logistical moves to make so that the instructional space is developmentally appropriate for the students that are going to be entering it. We'll be able to focus that support at Northwood and Clinton this summer, and then the summer of 27, give that same care and focus at Allendale, Winchester Potters, and West Elementary. And then lastly, transportation and transportation logistics. We have done some preliminary work on transportation because we wanted to ensure that the plan that we were presenting tonight was a feasible and viable plan from a transportation perspective, which it is. But we also anticipate some transportation efficiencies. One thing that I'll note here is that if a family has a student in a primary building and an intermediate building, so let's say you've got a 1st grader at Clinton and a 4th grader at Northwood, we were sensitive to families and the needs of families. We didn't want a bus going through a neighborhood 2 times for elementary kids. That would be inefficient. What will happen and what we envision in the model is the bus will go through the neighborhood 1 time, picking up the kindergarten through 5th grade students, and then I'll show you a draft of what we've put together of what that could look like for potential pickup and drop-off times. Some limitations of this revised plan. I wish I could say that there is a perfect plan that doesn't have limitations. If there was, I'm sure this committee would have found it 3 years ago. But some of the limitations that we do need to realize is that this will mean that some of our families will have children in 2 different elementary schools. They may have a child in kindergarten in one building and in 3rd grade in another building. That may not be preferred by some of our families, but I think the benefits that we saw on the previous slide outweigh that limitation. And it does add a transition for our students, yet they're not transitioning away from their peers. Their peer group is staying together. They will all move together to the intermediate school and then ultimately on to the middle school. So from here, should the Board of Education vote to adopt the plan tonight as we're recommending it, our next steps are immediately to shift gears from what is the plan and how will this be solved to now we have the plan and we're going to get to work on the logistical details to ensure that it is smoothly rolled out come September of 26. We intend to communicate the finalized plan to our faculty, staff, and to our families so everyone knows what is on the horizon. We will work with our parent-teacher organizations and principals and all stakeholders to ensure that any students who are going through a transition to a new school will be supported through that with things on the horizon like open houses and meet and greets. And we'll focus on that support specifically at Northwood and Clinton in the upcoming year, and then in the following year being able to focus that support at Allendale, Westell, and Winchester Potters. We will also finalize the bus routing plan. A preliminary plan was done to ensure that this is feasible, and it is feasible. But now we need to look at, it was a model done with our current students. Of course, our 5th graders will be exiting. We have a new cohort of kindergartners, and we will be revising that routing with the students that will be impacted by this come September of 26. We will also need to finalize the Northwood and Clinton start and end times. It's anticipated that we will go from having 4 tiers on the east side to a staggered start at Tier 3 of approximately 10 to potentially 15 minutes apart. So right now, to summarize for those who may not be familiar, we have a 4-tier bus model. Tier 1 is our high school bus run. That is the earliest run of the day. Tier 2 is our middle school bus run for our middle school students. Tier 3 is 3 of our elementary schools. So we have 3 elementary schools that have an earlier start time. Tier 4 are our 2 late elementary schools. So moving from those traditional 4-tier start times to allow for that new plan on the east side at Northwood and Clinton. And then, of course, we have some logistical details with staffing assignments. Staff may be shifting grade levels, or potentially, if they prefer and would like to transfer to a different building, going through that process to account for any of our staffing shifts. And then lastly, the plan to develop all of the movement of furniture, equipment, and teaching materials. What we have and what we anticipate in a primary library that would have an abundance of picture books will be different than what we anticipate in an intermediate library. So the time to be able to develop a plan for all of those logistical details so that each school developmentally reflects the age of their students. I want to share with you an example, and I underscore example. In no way, shape, or form is this finalized, but I wanted you to see an example of what start and end time could look like. As I mentioned, right now we have Tier 3 and Tier 4 at the elementary level, and those tiers are about 30 minutes difference in start and end time. In this model, we would have a bus go through a neighborhood and pick up all K-5 students. The bus would stop first at Clinton Elementary and drop off the kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade students. The older students would stay on the bus and continue on to Northwood Elementary. We anticipate Northwood Elementary would start potentially 10 to 15 minutes later than Clinton Elementary. In the afternoon, it would be the reverse of that. The bus would first pick up at Clinton Elementary. They would have the earlier end time of their student day, and then the bus would go on to Northwood Elementary to pick up grade 3 through 5 students. So a bus is going through the neighborhood one time, as opposed to sending out a primary bus and an intermediate bus. The bus goes through the neighborhood one time, so a family that has kindergarten through 5th grade students, all of their children can be on the bus together, and we would have staggered drop-offs at those 2 schools. This is, again, an example of what that model could look like. We have additional work to do to finalize what the exact start and end times would be, which is why I've underscored it is an example, just so that you can conceptualize the model and what that would look like. And we have more work to do before finalizing that. And of course, working with our stakeholders, our teachers, our parents, and communicating out any of those changes when it comes to start and end time. So that is the revised recommendation. I will put it up on the screen again so that you can reference that, but I would like to simply at this point allow the board to give any feedback or ask any questions that you have regarding the revised plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone start? Got some questions? Yeah. Zach, start with you.
Is there anything parents or families can do or be proactive, if they are affected by this redistricting?
My best and first advice is to talk positively to your children about this. If your children see that you as parents are upset, scared, or concerned about this plan, that will be felt by your child. This is an opportunity for them to have a new cohort of peers that they will be staying with through high school. The way in which we as adults talk about this will directly impact the way our children feel about this change. And if we are excited and eager about what's on the horizon and an opportunity to meet new friends, that will be impacted by our students. So I think that's my first piece of advice is when you talk with your child about this, please be mindful that the way in which we embrace this will be directly how our kids embrace this. Second, our schools are beautiful hubs of the community. Go to and visit a school, go to their Christmas concert, go to the playground. It's an opportunity for you to start to get children familiar with the school buildings prior to the change that's either coming this September or next September. And when we have those opportunities like meet and greets, open house, scavenger hunts, I would encourage you, the best that your schedule allows you to be actively involved in that and to take advantage of those opportunities. We will certainly make those opportunities available to help support students through that transition.
Good. Anyone else?
On that, Lisa, I think you were saying that for students, or I should say more, so for parents who can't do that in the evening because they're working, is there going to be a time during the day that students will have a field trip so that every student has the opportunity, and that if their parents are working and they don't have transportation in the evening, that they would get that exposure?
We can certainly consider that. What I'd like to do to help develop those plans is pull together our parent-teacher organizations, teachers and principals to look at what can we do, such as field trips for students who may not be able to come during an evening. But I think that's a great suggestion and one that I'd like for us to explore.
I'll piggyback on that. I'm assuming there's almost going to be like a transition team for this. Is that the kind of concept there?
So I've already started. We have 2 meetings on the calendar already. One with the building principals, the other where we're pulling in some of our teammates who will help with the logistics on this, like our director of facilities, our director of transportation. We anticipate having subgroups that will be tasked with all of the logistical details and planning. For example, transportation and a subgroup on that, and the director of facilities around the actual physical moves of any furniture and equipment. And one of those subgroups will be the social emotional transitional supports for students, because that's more important than moving desks and chairs, is ensuring that our students are well prepared for this transition. And I think some of this is going to be a mindset shift. Forever, we've been doing kindergarten orientation. Well, now we will likely have a 3rd grade orientation because our students will be going off to 3rd grade in a new school, and we will need to think of that in a different way as a transitional year, just as we think of 6th grade orientation and freshman orientation. So I think some of this is going to be a mindset shift for us, but ensuring that we have a subgroup for transitional supports and the social emotional support for students.
Excellent. And again, if this is already being developed, I'm not looking to micromanage the process. Is there a way, what I'm going to get, and I'm sure what I've already gotten and everyone else is going to get is, well, what about this? Well, what about this? What if this? Questions that kind of, I don't want to imply are individualized per parent, but every parent that is going to be involved in this is going to be thinking about, well, with their kid, what about this? What about, is there maybe, similar to where we used to have, like, you can email the board if you have questions, so we can compile and we see if there's similar questions developing, maybe we can address it right on a website instead of like every parent calling the principal or calling you, or like just a chance to get their questions out, and then we can kind of get the answers as we can come up with them. a way to funnel them into one spot. Is there going to be an opportunity like that?
Sure. We have an email account established that we've been using throughout this process to accept questions. And from that email, when we receive questions, if they were very individualized questions, we would respond to that individual. If it was a more generalized question that we thought might be beneficial for everyone to hear not only the question but the response, we developed frequently asked questions and we pushed out an FAQ. In May or June, we had the FAQ that went out based on the number of questions. When we would get repetitive questions, we thought, okay, this is something that we need to clarify because more than one person has a similar question. And we can certainly do that again and develop an FAQ if we're getting a pattern of questions. But you're right, there will be, particularly for our children with special needs or that are in a special class, there may be parents who have very individualized questions, and we want to help support them with that as well.
So just to reiterate, this reconfiguration plan, beginning with Clinton and Northwood, would not only alleviate the class size burden, but also allow for adequate space for related service providers, correct?
That is correct. The building capacity that we looked at not only looked at classrooms, what I'll call traditional classrooms, but also all of the space needed for interventionists, so things like AIS services, reading specialists, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech services. All of those interventionists and related services were accounted for when we looked at building capacity.
Dr. Krueger, I just had a couple more questions. It also allowed, to Sarah's point, some space for special education classes in those buildings.
That is correct. Right now, our special education classes, as I think the board is aware, have not been at the forefront of planning that we've done. Self-contained classes specifically have been placed wherever there's capacity out of that need. As an example, this building, West Elementary, currently has 9 self-contained classes. That is a lot for a building when you account for the supports that those students need, the supports that they need for their program, the number of teacher aides that are needed to support a program or related services. Having 9 self-contained classes in one building does put a unique strain on a building. This is going to allow us to not simply look at it as where do we have space, and that's where the class goes, but instead look at grouping classes together in a manner that's best for the students and for the program, whether that's our 161 classes, our 181, or our 112-1. So there will be the space to be able to do that in our elementary schools, and Jackie Fowler and Joelle Burke have put together preliminary plans on a continuum of services that utilizes our elementary schools, but also is much more equitable in how many classes and what programs are in each of our schools. And it has not been equitable in recent years. We've had some buildings with few to no special classes and other buildings with an abundance of special classes.
Thank you. And I had just one last question. Can you just clarify, because this was very detailed and wonderful, so just for everyone to understand what the board is voting on tonight, what is going to the community for vote in May, and then also looking at the long-range plan with transportation on there, because I believe that is what's going to the vote in May as well for long-range. Should something come available before 29, would that be able to be taken advantage of? So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of what the board is voting on tonight, plus what is going to the community in May.
Great point of clarity. The board tonight is simply voting on the redistricting/reconfiguration plan. So focusing on what's presented here, phase 1 and phase 2. It's really reconfiguring our elementary schools and creating pre-K to 2, 3 to 5 schools. The other phases, the board is not taking action on tonight, and that would be part of our long-range facilities plan. One aspect of that plan is a capital improvement project this May that we anticipate. We will be bringing our architects, Young and Wright, and Campus Construction to present at our December 9th board meeting. The scope of the next capital improvement project is really starting to come into clarity. And one aspect of that capital improvement project is to fill in the pools at the middle school, at both middle schools, so that we can repurpose those pools and claim some additional instructional space. In terms of the transportation department, that we do not have a definitive timeline for. If we find a property that meets our needs, it certainly could happen sooner than 2029, but in our long-range plan, ensuring that we have adequate space to be able to accommodate our desire to increase our fleet of buses.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. I know staff and faculty are going to have questions that are specific to their building with shifts, changes, even, East with having all of central office on that campus, and what is that going to look like? Are there going to be opportunities for staff and faculty to ask those questions? Because I know many parents are going to go to the teachers first to start asking things. I just want to make sure they're prepared. Or, when you're at an event and you know someone who kind of runs the building, you're going to be asking those questions of them too.
Our principals are amazing. Mrs. McCartan, the principal of Clinton Elementary, has a faculty meeting scheduled for tomorrow. Mrs. Ferry, the principal of Northwood Elementary, has a faculty meeting scheduled for Thursday. So those buildings that are going to be most impacted by this in the immediate future have faculty meetings set up, because I anticipate teachers may have questions around, how will this work? If I prefer to stay at this building, or if I prefer to teach a particular grade level. And we have contractual language around that dictates how we go about assigning staff and assigning them to a grade level, as an example. But nonetheless, I'm sure there will be questions around that. So we are starting with those two schools and their faculty meetings and communications at those buildings, and then taking time to share those communications at other buildings that are either less impacted or not impacted come fall of 26, where we have some more time for those communications.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would say my only concern is for the long-range plan. I thought we had come to the decision that we were going to work towards the one West Seneca, where we were combining both east and west. And by no means do I want to say that I think anything was rushed, because I know how much time we spent last year alone, and then, previous boards, how much time they invested into it. But it was always the same, like utilizing the same buildings for the same exact reason. So elementary was always just, those were the elementary buildings. So, never once did discussion come up of converting one of the high schools into an elementary building, and seeing how that would possibly fit into the plan, and if it could, and how many kids we could put there. And then utilizing possibly the middle schools as an intermediate, and then whatever the other high school was is maybe the 10-12 or the 9, or I'm sorry, yeah, 10-12 would probably make the most sense. Because to me, we have so much real estate, and the way we configure it right now, it works, but there's probably ways we could be much more strategic with it and not need as much real estate, which then is going to lower the cost of the district. And I just wish we could have spent, if I knew we were going to be adding the transitions like the K2, 3, 5, because I knew we were trying to stay away from more transitions for these kids. I wish we would have spent a little bit more time and maybe exploring that type of option. It may not even be possible, may not work, but I think that would have been beneficial if we could have brought the entire district together and had them together the entire time they're in school.
Okay. That is feedback that we didn't get following the June presentation, so that was not something that was explored at that time. I think we had a group that did previously present. The redistricting committee, before I came to the district, presented the concept of one high school, and a junior high, I'll call it, and a senior high model of grades 8, 9 in one of the high schools and 10, 12 in one of the high schools. And there was some tremendous feedback from the community. I would say if that is something that's desired by the board to want to revisit high school configuration, that would be the will of the board to be able to do that. Our charge as a committee and what I believe the board had asked us to do first and foremost was to solve the elementary capacity issues, which this plan does. If down the road we want to still look at and revisit the utilization of our high schools, there's nothing that would prevent us from doing so. I think whether it's exploring specialized high schools, magnet high schools, if the board wants to revisit that concept of an 8-9 building and a 10-12 building, we certainly could explore that, but I hope it would not prevent us from delaying a decision tonight, because there is the greatest sense of urgency around elementary capacity and class size issues, particularly at Clinton and Allendale. But I guess I would entertain, feedback from the rest of the board if that is something that down the road the board would like us to revisit. You're not voting on that tonight. That right-hand column in terms of a long-range plan and 2029 and beyond is not anything that the board is voting on. But if that is something that the board wants to explore, we certainly can. My request is allow us to have our energy and attention right now on the elementary and middle school configurations to do that really well. And then if down the road we want to explore the high schools, we certainly could. In terms of real estate and us being sensitive to taxpayers and the number of buildings and properties that we have, our plan to vacate the Ebenezer building will reduce the burden on taxpayers. It will be one less building for us to heat, maintain, a building that we don't get state aid back. So us moving out of the Ebenezer building, I really do believe is financially responsible, consolidating the footprint that we have and bringing us to a building where there is an abundance of space. But if that's something that the board would like us to visit down the road, we certainly can do that.
Yeah, I don't want you to think I am opposed to what's being proposed tonight. I just feel long-term, the realization is, at East, I believe we're under 800 now students. West is floating maybe around 1,000. And in Tony's projections Tony Day, when he did his, it just continues to decrease. So, when you explain that to the taxpayers, if they don't understand it, shame on them. It's just you're just dumping all this money into buildings that keep having less and less students in there. When do you finally get to a breaking point? So I'm not saying down the road we might not get more families having more kids, but it just does not seem like that's a trend anymore. And you have to look long term. I'm not saying we have to start this tomorrow. It's just because the more we invest into these buildings, then we end up with these big bonds on them for 15 years, and then we end up being stuck in that building for another 15 years, or we eat the cost. So if it's something that is possible and it's something we can move towards, I think it's something that's worth investing time into.
I think we have some time to consider that, though, because the population is supposed to stay fairly consistent for the 5 and 10 year projections. It's after that point that they kind of feel like we're going to start to decline, so we would have time to do that within that 5 to 10 year mark if we wanted to.
Well, even Tony's 3-year outlook had dropped. It was a considerable number moving forward. So,
if I may, Dr. Krueger, when she came in, wanted to make West Seneca a community where people wanted to come. So I did reach out to a few of our town council members to ask where we were with opportunities for more families to come in. And just from being on the board and working with the state, we don't realize, is there affordable housing in our community? Are there daycares that bring in families? So when I spoke with the town council, the thing that was pointed out was that most of the single-family homes are by seniors. So in that 5 or 10 year plan, those seniors are going to move out, and now West Seneca is going to be in a position, I think, where you're going to have young families want to move in. So I think we're going to put ourselves in a good position to make West Seneca, once again, the place that people want to come.
So the last development we put in, and I can't remember which one it was approximately 200 houses, and they were expecting all these families to move in with all these kids, and I think it was a total of 40 kids total out of 200 houses.
Well, you never know, but the fact is, there's been a big housing crunch and there's nowhere for families to go, so they're renting.
Turn it around quick, so.
Well, it may, but I think all these seniors are going to be moving out and moving on from their current homes. And just to comment on your comment about the senior high school becoming for elementary, they're not built for elementary students. There's no way configuration-wise, square footage-wise, you might fit them all, but there's no way you're putting small children in a vast, like even this building isn't meant for them. So I just don't think it's not going to work.
In the classrooms, you made it work, so.
Well, it sounds to me like we want to have a great conversation on the next level. Can we move it to?
I'm ready, let's go.
You want to have it now?
No, I meant like,
Can
let's get this.
Can we
yeah.
regroup on this, and then we can probably, I'm going to guess, give us a couple of months to settle in, and we can have a whole work session, and we can add part of it to it?
Oh, no, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in.
Well, no, I love your, they're not making pennies anymore, so how about a nickel? But, I definitely, I don't want to debate whether the high schools will hold kids or not now, but we definitely can continue that at a work session or another board meeting, if that's cool. Okay, good. Nickel, put your nickel in.
Are there any other questions?
Anyone else on anything? I want to throw out there, though, you mentioned Ebenezer and selling it. That puts a property back on the tax rolls. I think that's a positive, too. I mean, it's not going to necessarily make or break the town, but it's a pretty big chunk of land, and if someone buys it, they're probably not going to be another school district. So it'll be back on the tax rolls, hopefully.
Right.
That's a positive.
And I don't want this taken out of context. We don't anticipate closing any schools in the near future, but there is a pathway to do this should the numbers dictate that. What we will have on the west side are 2 pre-K to 2 and a 3 to 5 school. If the numbers dwindled, Allendale is the smallest elementary school with the smallest footprint. There could be a future where there is 1 3 to 5 school and 1 pre-K to 2 school on the west side. So there are pathways and options if the numbers dictated that, but right now that's not the case. That's not the case in the foreseeable future. Utilizing our spaces and the configurations the way in which they are is certainly something that I think the redistricting committee and our stakeholder feedback was pretty resoundingly loud on those fronts.
Anything else? Okay.
If I can just take a moment, I really want to recognize the Board of Education for their dedication to this process, and I do hope that the community sees that this was not a decision that was made and done back in May or June or 3 men in a room who made a decision. This has been years of work with a committee, stakeholder feedback gathered at 5 different points through surveys and also through 2 different community forums that we held. And each of these iterations has been evolved and tweaked based on the feedback that we received. So I think that's reflective of a leadership team that really does care about stakeholder feedback and wants to do what's right for the community and what the community values, but equally a Board of Education that takes their oath as board members to represent the voice of the community. So this has been a long time to get to this point where the board is actually making a decision, and I just wanted to recognize again the efforts of the board and the efforts of the redistricting committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other ideas or if anything come up later on, feel free to shoot an email to the board and we'll make sure we bring it up and we'll revisit it at the next meeting. We're going to move on to our public comment section. I have 1 person signed up and there may be others. I'm going to read the little speech that we give. The Board of Education will now entertain public comment for 30 minutes, with each speaker given 3 minutes. When called, please step up to the podium and state your name and address. Please be respectful in your comments and do not divulge any personal or confidential information. And I believe we have a timer for 3 minutes, and if not, I'll use my phone. And if I can have Ken come up, please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ken Thompson, 109 Tutor. So I was prepared for a whole different kind of conversation or speech here, to stand up for what I thought was best for our kids and to be honest, the feedback that I saw and the work that was put in is kind of impressive. 1,000 participants. I even created a petition. I had, I keep a small circle, so for me to just get 50 plus people to kind of to sign to, I wish I had more time to get to some of the parents that, maybe didn't look at the redistricting plans. Obviously, we saw some people didn't watch and stuff, but I think the feedback and the participants were awesome, and it looks like, the feedback was taken, and we made the changes to kind of that I was going to advocate for. So I just wanted to come up and say that I appreciate that, and thanks for making me have to rewrite and redo this. So, there was thoughts about buying a new house, property, rental agreements, all sorts of stuff. So, this has been taxing on us and a lot of people, and I think the end result, it's going to be the fairest way possible that we could do it, and something for long term. So, it's not going to be perfect, but I think that it'd be the right decision to vote and move forward with this, tonight. So I guess I just wanted to say I appreciate it, and thanks for the time.
Thank you. I do not have anyone else on the sheet. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to come up and give their 2 cents? Nickel? Sure. Sir, if you please state your name.
Vincent Vanderlip. I reside just over there, 52 Sunset Creek Drive. I just want to express my appreciation to everybody that's been part of this. I've obviously had a front row seat through this entire process and watching this evolve from an idea into a plan, and I think it's been done with incredible skill and strategy, and the type of work that school communities should be taking. We should be listening to one another. We should be making decisions that are based on data, based on good information, that create the very best environments for students to learn in. And I think that for a number of years we've been somewhat rudderless, and it's been very difficult to get the right people in the room to lead this. And I thank you, Dr. Krueger, for being able to spearhead that and take all of these wonderful ideas and this feedback and basically synthesize it into a plan that takes us into a direction that we've needed to go for some time, which includes not only the here and now, but down the road. It does set us up, as Mr. Maloney, you and I are on the same page. Should we be looking at a single high school down the road? Yes, everything should be in play, but you need to do the first things first and get those right, and then continue to move in that direction. I think this gentleman's statements here are indicative of what the community probably feels right now, is that they've been heard, you've gained their trust, and in doing so, we can work together even more. Because people will be more willing to come to the table if they know that their voices are heard and valued. So congratulations to you on that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Or we close the, sir, gentlemen?
Howdy. My name is Mike Straw, live at 78 Bronx. Like Ken, I had a whole different plan for how this was going to go, so I do thank you for taking the feedback. Admittedly, when speaking with my wife, there was trust if feedback would actually be heard. We've been involved in these in different districts, and it was kind of clear different districts just kind of said they took the feedback, didn't really take it. The only real concern left at this point, and I know it'll be addressed when faculties have their meeting like at Clinton tomorrow and Northwood later this week, is staffing and relationship with students. For example, without giving my son, very tough to trust staff and get close to faculty. There is that worry, because we have kept him filled in this whole way, of who he'd see, what staff, will he have his social worker, for example, who he sees multiple times a week. Will that follow? Will he have to learn? So I think these are questions that still kind of need to be answered and addressed for the kids who require them. One bit of feedback that I did have through this whole process, because I asked, had anybody at the school made him aware that this was a possibility, made any of the students. As someone who works with data for a living, for a while it felt like we were treating the kids as just data numbers. Data points, not thinking of their emotion through the feedback. And there was that worry going into tonight that a decision would be made without thinking of their emotional state and the relationship. So it is nice to see that they're actually being considered. But like I said, I had a whole different thing set, but I do appreciate all the time and commitment that's clearly went into this. And I think the staff and relationship aspect with the kids is the next logical solution that needs to be found. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, close public comment. Again, thank you. Thank you for everyone who spoke. And if anyone, I guess if anyone's watching at home, we're going to have the way for you to send in questions, and we'll figure out answers for you. Let's see, public comment. So now we are going to move on to 4, personnel. May I have a motion on 4A, please?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Jeremy, motion to approve. May I have a second? Sarah? Second for Sarah. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, passes 7-0. B, 4B. May I have a motion on 4B, please?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Jeremy's making the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Laura, second. And is there any discussion on 4B? 4B or not 4B? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Consent. Okay, we'll move on to 5, consent agenda. If I may have a motion on the entire consent agenda, please.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Jeremy.
5 through 9.
Motion to approve. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. We do not do discussion on that, so all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, passes 7-0. And I believe at this point we get to
Personnel.
speak again.
Thank you. Dr. Cervoni, would you like to come up and join us for personnel recognition? The board just took action on a number of agenda items, which included some retirements of employees and also some appointments of new employees. I believe the clicker is there, Dr. Cervoni.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Dr. Krueger, Board of Education, thank you for having me up here. First, I'd like to recognize some of the recognitions of the staff members and employee groups in our district. School Psychology Week, November 3rd through the 7th. Educational Support Professionals Day was November 19th, or is November 19th, and Substitute Educators Day. Small plug, we need substitutes. If you're interested in working with us, you can call the Human Resources Office anytime. All positions are in need. But we recognize and thank all of those serving as our substitutes on November 21st. We did have quite a few retirees. I've worked with a great number of the people on this, and I know we will recognize our retirees typically in June, but certainly would like to thank and recognize the years of service of all the people listed here. And we do expect more, obviously, as we work through the winter and spring, but congratulations and thank you for making a difference for our students and our school community. I don't believe any of these people are here, but if you are, did you want to stand to be recognized? Okay. Congratulations to our retirees and our appointments. I also do not believe any of our appointments that were made tonight are in attendance. If I am wrong, please let me know, but I'd certainly like to welcome all the individuals listed here to the West Seneca school community. We look forward to you supporting our community, our district, and our students. So, welcome.
Go on to a 10-minute recess. What we're going to do is we'll throw 10 minutes up on the clock, and at the 10-minute mark, I'll probably come back to my seat and start banging my gavel that we're going to sit down and continue the meeting. Thank you. We'll move on to number 11, the redistricting week reconfiguration. I'm going to ask for a motion that we resolve that the Board of Education accept the redistricting reconfiguration plan as presented on November 18th, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with,
Give it to Jeremy, I think he was first, he spat it out.
well, I'll accept the motion from Jeremy to accept the redistricting plan with most other board members jumping in on that. And I have a second from
Sarah.
Sarah. Excellent. Any discussion on the matter? Again, I'll just throw my 2 cents in, as Jeremy would have earlier. I just want to, again, thank everybody with the board. We had some great ideas over the last couple of years. Lisa, Dr. Krueger, your faculty, your staff, everyone. I mean, really, I've been involved in this for 12 plus years, and this is the first time it's really seemed to have just gone with whatever the community supporting the board, the ideas, what you guys think is best for the kids. I really appreciate just the full community involvement on this. So thank you, and thank the board for doing this, and thank our previous board members for getting us to where we are. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Thank you, guys. We'll move on to, actually, if I could have a motion on the remaining.
I'll make the motion to approve me through our.
Jeremy approves. Okay, got
I'll second.
Laura seconds. Any discussion?
I do have a question.
Absolutely.
I see that we are taking action on the spring sports being combined. I know we got a last minute winter sport combination. Are we going to take action on that in the future, or is that already the girls' varsity basketball team at East now joining with West for the season?
Let me look into that as to whether or not the board has taken action on that. I don't want to misspeak, Sarah, so if you don't mind if I look into that and then follow up with the board, and if we need to take action, we can add it to the December 9th agenda?
Yeah, I know it was a last minute kind of decision based on the number of students that signed up to participate. So.
And I don't believe that the board has yet taken action on that.
Correct.
So thank you for raising that, and we'll make sure that it gets added to December if we need to.
All right.
Thank
That was
you.
my only question.
No, thank you, and my apologies if that was an oversight on our part.
Any other discussions on it? I do want to point out that we got some trips approved, which I think is great.
We didn't vote yet.
We will have some trips approved. That is great. I was just looking under the combining teams resolution. I really thought the basketball was on there.
Just the unified basketball.
Oh, that's why I made the mistake.
But winter
Okay.
basketball is not for
Okay.
the girls.
Okay, that may have been an oversight, so we'll correct that. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. What was that? Yeah, oh, thank you. That's what I was looking for. I do want to point out and thank people for the donations. We got 4 bandsaws donated to use at West Senior High School. Some donors donated 4 bandsaws. We got some money donated from Get Noticed Promotions to the East Senior Class of 2028. We got some office furniture donated to East Middle, Winchester Potters, and Buildings and Grounds from Buffalo Field Office, Department of Homeland Security. It's kind of cool. $700 from World Class Taekwondo to Northwood Elementary to be used towards physical education equipment, and $1,150 from a parent fundraiser to the West Senior Softball Program to be used towards team apparel, functions, and activities. So everyone who's donated, thank you. Means a lot to the whole district and the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not voting on 12 because it's informational. 13, Board of Education discussion. We'll move on to Board of Education discussion. We'll start with our work session, November 25th. I know Jeremy is chomping at the bit to have one, but do we actually
I'll
need
make a
one?
motion to cancel it.
Make a motion to cancel the board meeting. I don't know if we actually have to officially do that or not, but I'll take a second. Anyone want to cancel?
I mean, I think we just made some pretty big steps today, and unless there are specific issues that we need to talk about as a board next Tuesday, I think it makes sense to cancel it.
So you would like to make a motion to cancel it? You'd like to second that?
Yes.
Okay, Mara will second. Any discussion other than that? I do think we have a lot that we've accomplished, and I know next week's going to be crazy. We'll just have to make our next work session a little longer. So all in favor of canceling it, if we need an official vote? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? You guys opposed? You
Can
good?
I add something real quick?
Yeah, absolutely, sir.
So next Tuesday happens to be my birthday, so thank you all for giving me the greatest present. So, thank you.
Happy birthday, Adam.
We could have had a cake from Eileen's and everything.
So I think he is expecting everyone to stop at East Senior to wish him a happy birthday.
Yes, we will do that.
That would be very well appreciated.
Excellent.
Happy birthday.
Excellent. Happy birthday, 1 week early. The next thing we're going to talk about is sports-related fees. I know this is something that we want to kind of look further into at a future work session, but if you want to discuss it, Maureen?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention, and it's definitely a larger situation, but it had come to my attention this week. You know, there's a lot of students that are probably having conversations around kitchen tables at this time of, can I afford to go on the class trip? Can I afford to do a sport? Because there are some sports who are requiring, at time of making it, a significant fee that I'm not sure is appropriate. Because my concern here, especially with all the conversations we've just had about East versus West, and things aren't the same, is I really think that with all of these teams combining, are we creating a have versus have not? And are we combining because we don't have the people showing up because they can't afford it? And that is the last thing I would want for this district, that there are students or families who think that they can't participate, whether it's cheer or a softball or football, because of fees. And I know that we've all been very clear about wanting that participation, and it would just break my heart if that is what's happening, because there's a mandatory choreography camp, mandatory backpacks, or something that in the grand scheme of things is not mandatory, when we are just voting on paying coaches stipends. I come from a world of theater and dance. I pay you for a dance class, I expect you to choreograph the number. So I don't know what's behind that. I would like to find out more, because these students have been looking forward to these class trips, specifically middle school is what came to mind for me. And now there's conversations around kitchen tables around what they can do, and if they don't sign up for the trip because they're going to try out for cheer, and if they don't make the cheer team, now they've got nothing. So I just want to make sure as a board, on a grander scale, what are our families paying? I would love to know what is required, what are we paying for them, and what is happening.
I can respond in a general sense, and then I think this would be something that would be a worthwhile work session topic where we could invite our athletic director to be part of that conversation. But in a general sense, individual personal items may be the responsibility of a family. So think of things like mouth guards, something that's a personal item for a student. Beyond that, when it comes to uniforms and other equipment, those are generally supplied by the school district. Some of the things that you've mentioned, I did look into the backpacks for the cheerleading uniforms. That was optional. Maybe it wasn't communicated well to be clear that it was optional. But I think this is a worthwhile conversation for us to have. We have a large number of children whose families may struggle to be able to pay any additional fees. And as a public school, we want our students to be able to access our programming, whether it's the music program or athletic program. But I think for us to get a sense of what are some typical things that a family can expect versus those things that would be above and beyond that we wouldn't want a coach or the athletic program to charge a family would be a really worthwhile discussion.
Thank you.
I mean, the reality is, we just approved for, hockey and for West and baseball for West. Things the team is going to do, so the one is they're going to a tournament out of town, and it says right in there it's parent fundraising, and then the baseball trip is spring training camp is $500 plus whatever from the fundraiser. So there are costs for sports, which I don't believe the district should pick up, and I don't know the extent of this choreography camp, but then if we open that door that, okay, we're going to cover that for the cheerleaders, now are we covering like a pitching camp for baseball and this for little cross?
That wasn't my intent.
No,
by the way.
I'm just saying.
I'm not saying to cover it. I'm saying,
we have to be very
do they need
cautious
it?
on how we address things like this,
Yeah.
because you could open a door that would cost this district so much money, it would be, because the
I wasn't
second you
saying
give
that
it to
we need to
one,
cover
you
it,
gotta give it
Jeremy.
to all.
I wasn't saying that we need to cover it. To me, that example is, I come from a world of when I pay a dance teacher, that dance teacher choreographs the number. So if we are paying cheer coaches, why is there an additional camp? That's my point. That why are the families paying for that? Not saying that we should pay for it. I just want to know why that is mandatory in addition to. That's all.
Yeah,
That's fine. I'm sure that the families have the option to fundraise, but they probably have to do all the legwork, and I
But it would
would.
be after the fact, because the day you make the team, you got to fork up the money.
Yeah, so that's again, what lead us to this sounds like a really fun work session.
No.
Looking into this
Sounds like
stuff.
something that Dr. Krueger can look into for us.
Well, I have questions and ideas I'd like to talk about too. I think one of the biggest things we can look to do is put together maybe hey, this is what being in cheer could possibly cost you, to give people a heads up to save for it. Just like the DC trip. Like, I kind of knew the DC trip was there after my first kid kind of went through it, so we started saving for my other kids. So maybe like hey, this is the things that happen in middle school at the orientation during elementary school or something. These are ideas we could talk about once you come back to us with some information, different things, because maybe if someone can't afford it immediately, but they can, knowing, hey, my kid's going to want to be in cheer in high school, in middle school, this is about what we think cheer could cost a parent, something like that. And it's something we can work on, so we
I
can.
think that's a phenomenal point, and it's something I actually wanted to bring up tonight, because I field questions all the time from people in the public, and if I don't know the answer, I feel the appropriate thing is to then kick it to the superintendent, and if she can answer it and I can just relay it, or if it's something that we determine needs to be broadcast, whether it's at a freshman orientation or some kind of school thing, that's great, but I don't think that we need to turn every question we receive into a board discussion without giving the superintendent the opportunity to investigate it first.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate, the board discussion would be on the different ways that we want to support it. So, like, the question directly, like, that she has specifically, that might be a specific thing you can get an answer to or work on, but we got to find out also what the board is interested in supporting or not supporting too, like ideas. So I do think if we add it to a current work session, we won't add another one. We could have 10 minutes on it, or we could have a half hour, once Lisa collects her information.
Your 10 minutes is way different from my 10 minutes.
I can go longer.
I'm happy to do the legwork and get information for the board. Can I just ask for a little bit of clarity on the information that you're seeking? Is it information specifically related to cheer and the choreography camp, or is this information on a bigger question about what are the fees that families can typically experience should they try out for basketball, baseball, volleyball? Are you asking a bigger, more generalized question, or just to the specific example of cheer?
I think it's a bigger thing. And specifically, because just in talking in general, I think we have a duty to let the community know and what's expected, especially knowing that, like, sports boosters aren't even a thing anymore. So we can all sit here and think, if our child's not involved in it, that, oh, the other parents are working on this, there's the sports boosters, there's all these things, but if parents aren't stepping up to it, there is no more sports boosters, just like with the band. And so to think it's there, and to know that when it was there, perhaps coaches weren't using it and asking for those fees, I think it's a good opportunity for parents, for students, for the staff, for everybody to understand athletics, especially at a time when I think participation is the lowest. So I think it warrants a bigger discussion.
Let me be clear. I don't believe if you want to help Maureen with the answer to the cheer situation, I'm cool with that. Anyone else here speak up? My point about discussing this at a work session is, I'm not interested in giving you any directives or questions to answer at this point. The work session will develop what we want you to research. I don't want to just throw that on your plate now.
Okay.
If anyone wants to disagree with me on that, we can move in a different direction, but I'm not looking to really go into a whole discussion at all. That was my point of giving a preview. But I do think if you need an immediate, I would be okay with that.
I, as a parent who has friends of my daughters who I know there's these conversations happening.
Yeah.
I just want it brought up,
Okay.
knowing I expect, and as a board member, I think it's my duty to bring it to everyone, I expect the coaches who are getting paid thousands of dollars, that they would be choreographing it. So that is a conversation you can have with them. I don't need an answer back, but the reality is what needs to be discussed is that our families are making choices. And I don't think that participating in an activity like that should be something that has to be disappointed to a child in this culture right now.
Okay.
So that's all.
So
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But I would say the difference in like the, what is it, the baseball and hockey is, it's not everyone is going to go, like you have the option to go. But, I don't know if there's too many kids. First of all, I knew coming up, like my son was big into hockey and lacrosse, so I knew well in advance that all of this stuff would have come up when he was playing at a younger age, and it cost me way more than what these numbers are, but
But we know that, right? Like, I know competitive dance, I know my thousands of dollars that I was up for, but...
the family's not, what I was getting is, the family, for these types of things, the family's not forced to do it. Like,
But are the children under the impression, or are the families under the impression? Because that was the impression that was happening.
I'm talking specifically about like this type of stuff. This is extra above and beyond. If they want to go on it, they go on it.
I'm putting you two next to each other at the next meeting.
No, I'm just saying, like, the east side, we just didn't have enough students to field a basketball team. We don't have enough students. I'm in shock that we don't have 2 soccer teams. Like, how do we not have these teams? And it's not because they're all traveling. Is it that when we look at our population, they can't afford it?
Could be.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Because this is a public education, we have all the tools, we're paying for coaches, we're paying
Got
for
it.
uniforms. I want to make sure the opportunity is there.
Okay, well, we will regroup, and we will discuss and figure out what we want Lisa to look into, what we would request you to look into, and we'll get it all put together then. Cool?
Cool.
I know, Cal, you want to jump in on that, or are you good? Okay. Excellent.
I just wanna, can I just
Sarah?
say in addition to that, I know these trips come up pretty quickly for families. I'm sure there's fundraising available, but it would be, like you said, a really good thing at like freshman orientation to have all this information kind of detailed as best you can.
Yeah, no,
Prices are going to change,
Yeah,
but
there's
like...
going to be a trip.
Yeah.
In this year of school or in this year of the program, here's a range of money it typically has cost in the past, something like that, so that they have an interest and understand what could be a part of that.
I think with some of the sports teams specifically, when the coaches are not coaches that are teachers in the district or staff at the schools, it's a little bit more difficult to communicate prior to tryouts. And it's like tryouts happen, then the season starts. So there's not really a good amount of time to do fundraising and like get a product. So if they needed to fundraise for the backpack or the warm-ups, it's at the end of the season by the time you're getting anything.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
like a plan to kind of alleviate those stressors.
Yeah, and I see that she's still writing things, but we'll regroup and get all this put together, because it's very similar to what we did with the board over the last few years. We put together a timeline of the time it'll cost board members if they want to run, or what our dates are. I believe we set our dates in stone, kind of like, not in stone, but we put a plan together so people that want to get involved can know. I would almost say it could be something like that. But again, we'll, Jeremy's probably complaining about me talking too much again, so.
Not yet.
We'll get together on a session. I think a work session would be good for that, so we could just have them two go at it for a little while and I don't have to interject. We'll figure out getting that in sooner than later. I know, I'm just kidding.
July 1st, 27.
July 1st, 27. Is there anything else that we want to discuss? Ryan?
So I've been on the bowling team for the last 7th grade, the last 4 years. And I can say my 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade year, it was, or no, 7th, 8th, I don't know, it was 9th grade. It was separate. West had their team, East had their team. We didn't have enough people on both sides, so we had to combine it. So after we combined it, then it's just kind of been East and West. And now, like, we don't have to pay anything. It's more just like if we want, like, if we're gonna do equipment or stuff like that, we did a fundraiser for football squares. $25 for a square, 4 squares, you know, raise money for, like, we went on a trip to, a group trip, like tournament, stuff like that, and, you know, it was nice. You didn't have to participate if they wanted you to participate, but, you know, it wasn't mandatory.
Cool. Thank you. Charlotte, I sometimes can't get you to be quiet. You guys have such... No? You guys nothing? We'll get to the next meeting. It'll be after your birthday. You guys can talk more, throw in your nickel.
I'll throw you guys some pointers, don't worry.
Okay, last thing, and I believe we can adjourn if everyone approves it. I do want to thank the board members for going to New York City for the convention. Sarah, thank you for keeping an eye on me. Maureen, Zach, Dr. Krueger, thank you for keeping an eye on me. But I do want to make sure I point publicly out, Melissa, you made that trip completely enjoyable for me, and everything was covered from A to Z. Credit cards, hotels, everything, so thank you so much for all the hard work you put into that, and thank you for the community for allowing us to go to something like that. I learned a lot. I have a couple of articles that I'm going to share with you guys from the convention. I know Laureen did a lot of work with some of the stuff. Sarah, Zach, Dr. Krueger, I watched them really just go toe-to-toe with some people on some information and work on some things. I think the best thing to come of it was the just time we got to meet other people, especially people we're going to be working with, some knowledge. And Zach, I appreciate you. He found this giant pencil, and he wanted to make sure we all had one, and he carried it with him everywhere in New York. So thank you on that. So just wanted to point that out. We will share some information that we learned from it, and it definitely, I think it definitely was time and money well spent on helping this district. So thank you for that. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, Jeremy, did you say you wanted a motion to adjourn?
No, I didn't. I want to stay all night.
Or a second? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Guys, have a great evening. Thank you.